I'll sign it after we get the DNA test results, because I'm not sure that child is mine. I stood still by the hospital bed, watching my wife, Lauren, cradle a newborn baby in her arms. The room was filled with joy. My mother and mother-in-law were in tears, smiling, whispering blessings. But I didn't move. I didn't step closer. I didn't reach out to touch the child. A nurse walked in, cheerful, holding a clipboard. "Mr. Walker, I just need your signature on the birth certificate." I looked at her, then at Lauren, the woman who once meant everything to me. I said calmly and clearly, "I'll sign it after we get the DNA test results, because I'm not sure that child is mine." The room went dead silent. My mother-in-law dropped the bouquet she was holding. Lauren snapped her head around so fast the baby stirred in her arms. Her eyes widened, mouth trembling, tears already building. And that was the moment everything broke. If you're a man who's ever felt betrayed, drop a "I understand" in the comments, or just keep watching. This is only the beginning. I watched Lauren stare at me like I had just driven a knife straight into her heart. Her mother, Barbara, clutched her chest in shock. My mother, Margaret, stood frozen, her eyes locked on me like she no longer recognized the son she had raised. Lauren whispered, her voice breaking, "Ethan, what the hell are you saying? You think I cheated on you?" I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. I didn't take it back. "No," I said coldly. "I'm not saying I think you cheated. I'm saying I know you did. And I need to know if this baby is even mine." The air in the room turned heavy, like all the oxygen had been sucked out. Lauren started to tremble. She pulled the baby tighter to her chest, shielding him like I was a threat. But my eyes stayed fixed, sharp, unshaken. Barbara finally stepped forward, trying to keep her voice steady. "Ethan, the baby just came into this world. Please don't be cruel. Not now." I turned to her, Cal, and I said, "Would you like to know his name? The man she texted, 'My husband must never know about us.'" The room was still. I turned back to Lauren, her eyes now wide with panic, and then I spoke, slow and clear. "Should I call Brandon Reese?" Her body jerked. It was like I had slapped her. "What?" she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. "No, I don't have anything to do with him." I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and slowly opened it. I held it up, made sure everyone in the room could see. "Then why?" I said. "Did you text him this?" I began reading. "My husband should never find out about you and me. I want nothing to do with you anymore." The words dropped like a bomb. Barbara covered her mouth in shock. My mother sat down slowly, as if her knees could no longer hold her. Lauren's face went pale, her lips trembling. The baby stirred in her arms, but she didn't notice. She just stood there, exposed, stripped of every lie she'd built. Tears welled in her eyes. Her voice cracked. How did you get that?" I let the paper hang loose at my side. "He gave it to me," I said quietly. "Brandon sent me the screenshot himself." Her hands were shaking now. The baby squirmed, uncomfortable in her arms, but she clutched him tighter, like a shield, like protection from what she knew was coming. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Then, finally, barely louder than a breath, she whispered. "He said, no one would ever find out." It hit me harder than I expected. Not because she confirmed it, but because of how casual she sounded, like it was some teenage mistake, a secret joke between lovers, not the bomb that blew up our marriage. My jaw clenched. My mother, still seated, murmured, "Oh my God." Barbara looked like she was about to collapse. "Lauren," she whispered, her voice cracking, "tell me it's not true." Lauren didn't answer. She couldn't. She was frozen, eyes wide, lips trembling, tears streaking down her cheeks, but she never denied it, and I didn't give her the chance to explain. I stepped closer, my voice calm but razor sharp. "So you did sleep with him?" She flinched. Her knees buckled, and she dropped into the hospital chair, clutching the baby like he was the last piece of her that hadn't already been destroyed. Barbara moved toward her, instinctively trying to comfort. My mother didn't. She turned to me instead, voice tense but controlled. "Ethan, stop! We don't even know if the child isn't yours yet." Barbara chimed in too. "Yes, what if you're wrong? What if this is your son?" I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. I just stood there, and I said quietly, "I've known about her affair for 4 months." Both women froze. Lauren's head snapped up like a puppet on broken strings. "What?" she breathed. Barbara's hands went cold against her daughter's shoulder. I nodded slowly. My voice was flat, almost too calm. "I found out back in April. Brandon sent me the first message, then the screenshots, the calls, the hotel receipts, all of it. Margaret, my mother, spoke, her voice tight with disbelief. Then why didn't you say anything before now? I looked at Lauren. Her eyes were full of tears, but mine weren't. Not anymore. Because she was pregnant. And I didn't want to be the man who shattered a woman during her pregnancy. Barbara gasped softly. I didn't want the stress to harm the child, even if he wasn't mine. I let those words hang. I needed them to sting. I waited. I stayed. I pretended. Because I wanted that baby to have peace coming into this world. Lauren choked back a sob. She buried her face into the baby's blanket. But I didn't reach for her. I didn't move. I just stood there, exhausted, but unshaken. The room was silent again. Even the beeping monitor beside Lauren seemed to fade into the background. She was still crying, but quieter now, like the tears didn't even belong to her anymore. I stared at her, then shifted my gaze to the child in her arms. If he's mine, I repeated, each word slow, deliberate. I will be his father. I will raise him. I will protect him. I will give him everything I've got. Barbara looked up, hope flickering in her face. Lauren glanced at me, her eyes pleading. But then I spoke again. But if he's not, I took a breath. Then I walk away, and I don't look back. Lauren shook her head, mouthing no, over and over again through her tears. My mother finally stood, her face pale but composed. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. And as for her, I nodded toward Lauren, who now rocked the baby desperately like motion could rewind time. We're done. Barbara gasped. Lauren whimpered. She will no longer be my wife. I will file for divorce. I will make sure of it. No yelling, no rage, just calm, clear closure. The room cracked open with emotion. Barbara began crying softly. Margaret wiped her face with both hands like she was trying to erase what she just heard. But I didn't flinch. My mother, Margaret, had always been the strong one, Marine, Gulf War veteran, never cried in front of me, not even at Dad's funeral. But now, she looked at me like she barely recognized the man in front of her. Her voice was soft, but firm. Ethan, she said, the baby is innocent. I didn't answer. He didn't ask for this. He didn't lie. He didn't cheat. He didn't destroy anything. She took a step closer, her hand slightly raised, but not touching me. He needs a father. A mother alone can't do it. I clenched my jaw. Something inside me began to crack. You should think about forgiveness, she continued. About counseling. About... That was it. And do what, Mom? I snapped, my voice low, bitter. Sit across from some therapist who tells me I wasn't emotionally available? Let her explain how my wife spreading her legs for another man is somehow my fault? She flinched. Barbara gasped, but I kept going. Then what? I pretend it made us stronger? That I'm now a better husband because she cheated and had another man's child? My throat tightened. My voice was ice. Do you want me to be a willing cuck, Mom? To raise another man's baby while pretending love conquered all? My mother opened her mouth, and nothing came out. Just silence. And pain. Then I said it. Sometimes I wonder if I'm really your son, or just something you pulled out of a garbage bag. My mother sat back down, wordless. Barbara still had her arm wrapped around Lauren, who was crying quietly now. No more screaming, no more shock, just brokenness. But I had none of that left in me. I looked at all of them, and I said the final words. After she's discharged, I said flatly, take her with you, Barbara. Lauren's eyes snapped open. Barbara looked up, stunned. What do you mean? She asked, her voice trembling. I didn't blink. She's not coming back to my house. I've already packed her clothes, her things, her pictures, her books. They'll be delivered to your place, or wherever you want. Barbara gasped. Lauren let out a soft sob, burying her face in the baby's blanket. I didn't even glance at the child. He wasn't mine. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I turned back to my mother, who still hadn't spoken a word. You can do whatever you want, I said. Visit her. Comfort her. Stay friends with Barbara. I'm not stopping you. But don't ask me to pretend this didn't happen. And then I said the one thing that sealed it all. Don't force your loyalty onto me while I'm cleaning up what she destroyed. No one moved. No one breathed. I walked out of the hospital room without a word. Didn't look back. Didn't even pause to breathe. The air outside felt colder than it should have. Like the hallway itself knew something sacred had just been broken behind that door. I took 3 steps, then stopped. Because there, standing just outside the doorway, was a nurse. She must have been there the whole time, quiet, still, a silent witness to every scream, every confession, every word that had shattered a family. She didn't flinch when I looked at her. She didn't pretend she hadn't heard. We locked eyes. And in her gaze, there was no judgment, no pity, just something raw, human, understanding. I couldn't explain it. But in that moment, when everyone inside had turned me into the villain, her eyes told me I wasn't crazy. I wasn't cruel. I was just a man who had been broken. I nodded once. She nodded back. That was it. No words exchanged. But somehow I walked away feeling less alone than I had in months. That evening, the silence in my house was suffocating. Her stuff was gone. The scent of her shampoo still lingered in the bathroom. There was a single bottle of baby lotion on the counter, something I hadn't even noticed she bought. I poured myself a drink, sat on the edge of the couch. Then the phone rang. My mom. I stared at the screen for a moment, already exhausted before answering. "Ethan," she said, voice soft, almost careful. "I'm at Barbara's." Of course she was. "Lauren needs both of us right now," she added. I closed my eyes, jaw clenched. I didn't say anything. She continued, "I've treated her like a daughter since the day you brought her home. I can't just flip that off like a switch." I still said nothing. Then came the line that snapped the thread. "I just pray that maybe this child is yours. And maybe you can still save this marriage." My grip tightened on the phone. I didn't shout. I didn't curse. I just said flat and final, "The marriage is over. Even if the child is mine, I'm done with her." She tried to speak. "Ethan, please just listen. No. If you keep pushing for that, then consider your son dead." Silence. Then finally her voice came through, fragile. "I hear you." I ended the call. 2 days later. No calls, no texts, not from my mom, not from Barbara, not from anyone. It was quiet, too quiet. Then, a knock on the door. I opened it to find a courier holding a sealed envelope. "For Ethan Walker," he said. I signed, took it, closed the door. No ceremony, no warning, just one envelope, white, thick, heavy, heavier than paper should ever feel. I sat at the table, stared at it for a long time. I already knew what it would say. I'd known it for months. But still, my fingers trembled as I opened it. Typed, cold, clinical. Sample A, probability of paternity, 0%. You are not the biological father. I didn't cry. There was no rage. No glass thrown. No screams into the void. Just stillness. Like my soul had quietly packed its bags and walked out. Any small sliver of doubt, any fragile part of me that had wondered, maybe I'm wrong, was now dead. The truth sat there on the paper, undeniable. It took me 30 minutes to get there. Barbara's house, quiet, calm, cozy even. The kind of place people pretend nothing is wrong. I rang the bell. The door opened. Lauren. Her face lit up. Relief, hope, delusion. "You came back," she whispered. "I knew it. I told Mom you still loved me." She smiled. "You can't live without me." I raised a hand. "Stop. Where's your mother?" The smile vanished. She hesitated, then stepped aside. I walked in. A few steps later, Barbara appeared from the hallway, and my mother was right behind her, holding the baby. My mother's eyes lit up. She walked toward me, bouncing the child gently. "Look," she said. "He has your eyes. He looks just like you. Hold him, Ethan, just once. You'll forget everything." I stepped back. "Mom," I said, my voice steel. "Don't push it." She stopped, confused, hurt. Then I pulled the envelope from my jacket, looked straight at Barbara, handed it to her. "Read it aloud," I said, "so everyone hears it." Her hands trembled as she opened the paper. She scanned it, her mouth parted. Then, in a voice that barely sounded like her own, "Sample A, probability of paternity, 0%. You are not the father." She dropped into the chair behind her, hand to forehead. My mother didn't move. She just stared at the paper, eyes scanning it again and again, until the truth burned into her bones. Silence. Barbara sat slumped in the chair, still gripping the paper like it might change if she stared long enough. My mother stood frozen, arms locked around the child, eyes wide, not in denial anymore, but in defeat. Lauren didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, crushed. But I didn't care anymore. I let the silence settle a few seconds longer. Then I spoke. My voice was clear, cold, final. I came here to say one thing. I looked at each of them in turn. Stop pushing me. I turned to my mother. Her hands were trembling now. This child is not mine. You said he has my eyes, but no paper in the world lies the way people do. She looked down, couldn't meet my gaze. I turned to Barbara. Don't ever call me about Lauren again. She's your daughter, not my wife. Finally, I looked at Lauren. She looked so small now. So, nothing. I said nothing to her, not a word, because betrayal doesn't deserve goodbye. I turned toward the door, hand on the knob. Then my mother's voice broke the silence. Ethan, wait. I stopped, but I didn't turn around. Ethan, wait. I stopped, but I didn't turn around. Behind me, I heard the faint sound, fabric shifting, a deep breath being taken. Then, drop me home. I froze. Slowly I turned. My mother was handing the baby back to Lauren. Lauren's face collapsed. She shook her head, clutching the child like she was about to drown. No, no, please, Margaret, don't. But my mother didn't look at her. She turned to Barbara. Her voice was soft, but filled with something I hadn't heard in her for a long time. Conviction. I'm sorry. I was hoping so badly that he was my grandson. But she took that away. Barbara's eyes welled up, but she didn't argue. My mother stepped forward. They embraced. Two women who had been best friends for decades, both broken in different ways. Then Barbara whispered, Semper Fi. My mother answered without hesitation, always faithful, sister. And just like that, she walked past them, out the door, didn't look back, didn't say another word, just opened the car door, sat in the passenger seat, and waited. I followed her, got in, started the engine. The drive home was wordless, no music, no questions. Just the sound of tires on pavement and two people finally breathing in sync again. When we got to her house, she got out first, left the door open behind her. I hesitated, then followed. The smell hit me immediately. Home, old books, coffee, a trace of lavender from her favorite candles. She didn't say anything, just walked into the kitchen. I heard the cabinets open, the click of the kettle, the soft clink of a spoon stirring sugar. A few minutes later, she came back. She placed a cup in front of me, hot, rich, dark, with chocolate, just how I like it. I wrapped my hands around it, let the warmth in. She sat down beside me, sighed, then said very softly, I'm sorry, son. I looked at her, but she wasn't looking at me. She was tracing the lines on her palm, like searching for something she had lost years ago. I made a mistake, she whispered. I didn't want to see you and Lauren fall apart, but I was wrong. I nodded, swallowed hard. Then I said the thing I'd been holding in my chest for months. I had no one, Mom. No one stood beside me. My voice cracked, and then it happened. I broke. Everything I had buried came flooding out. Tears, shaking shoulders, silent sobs I hadn't allowed myself to feel. Not at the hospital, not at home, not even in court. She didn't speak. She just reached out, ran her fingers gently through my hair, the way she did when I was a boy, and whispered, You did good. You stood your ground. You didn't bend. You didn't break. Her hand squeezed mine. And then, the words I didn't know I needed most. I'm proud of you, Ethan. I wiped my face, tried to steady my breath. My mother sat beside me, calm now, quiet, strong, the way she always was. We didn't speak for a moment. Then I asked her, half curiosity, half distraction, You said something back there, to Barbara. She looked at me, confused. You said Semper Fi. She blinked, then gave me a small, tired smile. Oh, that, she said, waving her hand like it was nothing. We were in the Marines together, first Gulf War. I froze. Wait, what? She chuckled, a little nostalgic. Yeah, logistics unit. 91, Kuwait. We were just two girls trying to do our part. 40,000 women served in that war. We were lucky. I stared at her. You were in combat? She shook her head. Support, supply runs, communications, but close enough to hear the bombs. She leaned back on the couch, gazing at a dusty photo of Dad on the shelf. Her voice dropped. Your father was the real hero. I came back. He didn't. A single tear escaped. She wiped it away fast, like she was ashamed of it. I didn't say anything. Then she stood up suddenly, brushing her hands on her jeans like she was dusting off memory. "Let me fix you something to eat." And just like that, the conversation shifted. But I couldn't stop thinking. Semper Fi, the Marines. My mom, in war, and Barbara too. There was more to this story, much more. Months passed. Life moved forward. I sold the old house, too many ghosts in the walls, moved into a smaller place near work. Quiet, simple, just mine. No distractions, no lies, just space to breathe. Mom still called, checked in. Sometimes we'd sit together in silence and just drink coffee. Other times she'd bring up Barbara, or the baby. But I'd always shut it down, gently. I wasn't ready. Maybe I'd never be. Then came the day everything changed. Not because of Lauren, or Barbara, but because of Mom. She passed away 2 months after my wedding. It was peaceful. No hospital, no pain, just sleep. I didn't cry at first. I handled the funeral, the paperwork, the guests. I stayed composed, stoic, just the way she taught me. But a week later, I returned to her house, alone, to sort through what was left. And that's when I saw it. A small leather-bound journal tucked under her pillow. Old, worn, smelled like lavender and thyme. I opened it, her handwriting. Page after page of memories. Me as a boy, Dad before the war, nights she couldn't sleep. Then, a photo slipped out. It hit the floor. I picked it up. 2 women, wearing Marine uniforms, serious expressions, the kind of photo you don't fake, Mom and Barbara. On the back, George Bush Center for Intelligence, 1999. My heart stopped. CIA? What the hell? I held the photo in my hand. The back said it all. George Bush Center for Intelligence, 1999. I looked at the uniforms again. My mother, Barbara. Not in fatigues, in suits, Langley. My hands tightened around the edges of the picture. I turned to the journal, flipped through pages like a madman. And there it was, the hidden part. A section tucked between folded pages, written in tighter script. Different tone, sharper, colder. 1997, 2001. Deep cover logistics, CIA liaison, Afghanistan, Panama, domestic surveillance. Barbara and I were paired, we did our jobs, and then we came home and became mothers. I swallowed hard. There were entries about weapons, surveillance, even names I didn't recognize. But then, my name appeared. Ethan started first grade today. Doesn't know Mom used to carry a cig tucked under her flak vest. I hope he never needs to know. But if he ever finds this, know this, son. I was always watching, always ready, always faithful. My throat closed up. That phrase again, Semper Fi. Not just a motto, a warning, a promise, a mission. She wasn't just some quiet war widow. She was a protector, a guardian who gave up shadows to raise me in the light. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the photo. Everything I thought I knew about her was just the tip of who she really was. I didn't expect to find anything else, but tucked beneath the journal in a plain manila envelope, unmarked, sealed tight, was a letter. Just my name on the front. Ethan. Nothing else. The handwriting was hers. I sat down, took a breath, and opened it. Inside, a single sheet of paper, folded once. I unfolded it slowly. My hands were steady, but my heart wasn't. And then I read, Ethan, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I know you, my son, you waited to open this until you were alone, just like your father, always needing silence to hear the truth. You're angry. You should be. The world hasn't been fair to you, but it's made you sharp, strong, unbreakable. When Lauren betrayed you, I tried to fix what couldn't be fixed. I forgot that sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is walk away. But I also saw something else. That child, Caleb, he's innocent, and he needs someone better than the man who fathered him. You don't owe him anything, but if one day you feel something shift inside your chest, don't be afraid to open your heart. Love doesn't make you weak, son. Forgiveness doesn't make you a fool. It makes you free. If you choose not to, I'll still be proud of you. But if you do, he will be the luckiest boy on earth. Always watching, always faithful, Mom. I sat there, holding the paper like it was made of glass, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel broken. I felt chosen. I didn't plan it, didn't rehearse a speech, didn't even call ahead. I just woke up, got in the car, and drove. Barbara's house looked the same, small porch, wind chimes, a plastic tricycle leaning against the wall. I sat in the car for 5 minutes. 5 long, silent minutes. Mom's letter still folded in my jacket pocket, like a heartbeat I didn't know I needed. Then, I got out, walked to the door, knocked, footsteps. Then the door opened. Barbara. She froze when she saw me, eyes wide, face pale. She didn't speak. Didn't need to. I looked over her shoulder into the living room. There he was, on the floor, playing with toy cars, humming to himself, hair messy, cheeks flushed. Caleb. He looked up, saw me. His face lit up, instantly. He got up and ran toward me without hesitation, stopped just short of my legs. "You're Grandma Linda's son," he said proudly. "I remember you." I crouched down, met him eye to eye. "Yeah, that's right," I said. "You remember what else?" He tilted his head, thinking. "You were mad last time," he said. "But not today?" I smiled, felt something shift, quiet, slow, but sure. Then I said the words I never thought I'd say. "I'm not mad today." I reached out, placed my hand gently on his tiny shoulder. "You're my son now." He blinked, processing, then grinned. "Okay, just like that. No questions, no fear, just a child's trust." I stood up. Barbara hadn't moved. She was crying, but not sobbing. The kind of crying people do when they realize they're being forgiven. A week later, everything was official. Caleb Walker. My son. The name felt strange at first, but when I said it aloud, it fit. Like it had always been waiting. We started slow, bedtime stories, cereal breakfasts. Why questions every 5 minutes. And somehow, I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt rebuilding. Then, one afternoon, while sorting through the last of Mom's things, I found an envelope, labeled in her handwriting, "For after Caleb." I froze, opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper, a name, a phone number, Kelly Morgan. Below it, a note. Marine, widow, no kids, lost her husband in Afghanistan. She understands more than you know. Just one date, that's all I ask. Love, Mom. I let out a half laugh, half sigh. She never stopped being my mom, even in death, still setting me up, still trying to save me. I stared at the name, then looked at Caleb, curled up on the couch, hugging a stuffed dinosaur. Maybe one date wasn't such a crazy idea. I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't looking for love. Hell, I wasn't even sure I remembered how to date. But I called the number anyway. "Hello?" Her voice, steady, warm, like someone who'd been through fire and came out forged, not burned. "Hi, this is Ethan Walker," I said. "I believe my mother may have left you my number." Silence. Then, laughter, low, soft, surprised. "Margaret Walker? That woman was relentless." I smiled despite myself. "Yeah, that sounds like her." She paused. "You want to meet for coffee?" We met at a quiet cafe just outside town. Simple, no pressure. She wore jeans, boots, and a leather jacket. No makeup, no pretense, just real. Kelly Morgan, former Marine. Lost her husband to an IED in Kandahar. Worked with a veteran counseling group now. Owned a rescue dog named Bishop. We didn't flirt. We talked. About war, about grief, about silence. And about how hard it was to trust again, without constantly checking for the exit. But the moment that changed everything came at the end. When she looked me in the eye and said, "You don't look like a man who's looking for love." I nodded. "I'm not," she smiled. "Good, because I'm not a woman who begs for it." We both laughed. For the first time in a long, long time. I wasn't pretending to be okay. I didn't plan for them to meet so soon. It was supposed to be casual, no pressure. Just one coffee, one conversation, and then back to reality. But life doesn't work like that, especially not with a 5-year-old in the house. Kelly stopped by one afternoon, dropped off a book for me, military memoir she thought I'd like. She didn't expect the door to open, and a kid to answer it. "Hi." Caleb looked up at her, wide-eyed, curious, calm. "You have dog hair on your pants." Kelly blinked, then smiled. "I do. That's Bishop's fault." She crouched down, eye level, not forcing a smile, not trying too hard. "What's your name?" she asked. "Caleb." A beat passed. Then out of nowhere he asked, "Are you going to be my mom?" Kelly's eyes widened. So did mine. I stood frozen behind him, mouth half open, heart halfway to stopping. She didn't look at me. She looked at him. Didn't laugh. Didn't flinch. She just asked gently, "Do you want me to be?" He thought for a second. Shrugged. "If you can make pancakes." She smiled. "Kid, I make the best damn pancakes in Texas." He grinned. Took her hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. I just stood there, watching them, like someone witnessing a story unfold that I never thought belonged to me. That night, after dinner and a failed attempt at pancake-flavored cereal, I tucked Caleb into bed. His room was dark, except for the glow of the moon slipping through the blinds. I pulled the blanket up to his chest, smoothed his hair. He was half asleep already. His fingers still curled around the stuffed dinosaur he never let go. I turned to leave, quietly, slowly, when his voice stopped me. Barely a whisper. "Dad?" I turned back. "Yeah, buddy?" Silence. Then from the darkness, "I'm glad you didn't leave me, even though I'm not yours." I froze. His eyes were closed. He wasn't asking. He wasn't fishing for reassurance. He was just saying it. From a place deeper than logic. A place only a child can speak from. I didn't know what to say. My throat burned. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe, let alone respond, so I didn't. I just walked out, closed the door softly, and leaned against the hallway wall, silent tears streaming down my face, because that one sentence undid every wall I thought I had rebuilt. The next morning, I texted Kelly, "Can I see you tonight?" No emoji, no overthinking, just a man who finally had something real to say. She replied within a minute, "Your place or mine?" I smiled. That night, after Caleb had gone to bed, she came over. Same leather jacket, same quiet strength. We sat in the kitchen, just the two of us. No wine, no distractions, just space between two people who had seen too much to lie to each other. I didn't waste time. "He called you Mom," I said. She nodded. I didn't correct him. I nodded back, then added, "He also said he's glad I didn't leave him, even though he's not mine." She blinked. Something shifted in her expression, something soft, wounded, but steady. "That's the thing," she said. "Kids don't care about DNA. They care about who shows up." I looked at her, really looked. And then I said it, slow, sure, no hesitation. "I'm not looking for a second chance at marriage. A beat. But I'm open to something, if you're willing to build it slowly." She didn't smile. She just reached across the table and took my hand. No rush, no promises, just honesty. I nodded, and that was it. No kiss, no romantic music. No, just the beginning of something built on ashes, but meant to last. It was Caleb's idea. "Can Miss Kelly come to family day too?" I looked at him from the driver's seat. "You sure?" He nodded without hesitation. "She's family." So that Friday morning, we walked into the school together. Me on the left, Kelly on the right, Caleb bouncing in between us, holding both our hands like it had always been that way. The classroom was chaos in the best way. Craft tables, glue sticks, pancakes shaped like stars. The kids gathered in a circle, showing off their parents. Some with two moms, some with a grandparent. One kid even had an older brother as his guest. And then Caleb stood up. No script, no fear. "This is my dad," he said, pointing proudly at me. Then he turned, grinned. "And this is Miss Kelly. She makes better pancakes than Dad." Laughter. Even I chuckled. Then the teacher smiled, stepped closer, and said warmly, "Oh, wonderful. Are you his mom?" Kelly froze. Ellie. Just a second. Not out of offense, not out of shock, but because no one had ever asked her that. Not kindly, not openly, not like it was the most natural question in the world. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, and softly, like a secret slipping out. "No, but I'd be proud to be." And right there, her voice cracked. She turned slightly, just enough so the kids wouldn't see, but I saw. Tears, not loud, not messy, just the kind that happen when someone realizes they're finally enough, exactly as they are. That night, after Caleb had gone to bed, after Kelly had gone home with a soft kiss on the cheek and a quiet, "Thank you," I cleaned up the kitchen. His backpack sat by the door, half unzipped. I reached in to grab his lunchbox, but pulled out a folded sheet of paper instead. Crayon lines, fingerprints, the usual chaos of a kid's art. But when I unfolded it, everything inside me stopped. It was a simple drawing. 3 people. One tall man with brown hair and big arms. One woman with a ponytail, wearing what looked like a cape. And in the middle, a boy with a dinosaur on his shirt. The title written in crooked bold letters, "My Real Family." I stared at it, not moving, not breathing. Then I saw the labels under each figure. Daddy, Mommy Kelly. Me. I sank into the couch, hands trembling. That single hyphen. Mommy Kelly. Not quite mommy, not quite Kelly, but something new, something chosen, something earned. And below that, in smaller letters, he had written, "Thank you for not leaving." I didn't cry, not right away. I just sat there, holding that piece of paper like it was made of gold, like it held every broken part of my story, now sketched whole by the only person who never asked for anything except love. The next day I stopped by her place, didn't text, didn't call ahead, just showed up with the frame in my hands, Caleb's drawing, now sitting behind glass like a relic. She opened the door, saw me, saw the frame, and went completely still. I stepped inside, wordless, and handed it to her. She stared at it for a long time, didn't speak, didn't blink. Her thumb traced the words, "Mommy Kelly." Then her eyes lifted, red, already brimming. She smiled through it, a quiet, shaky smile. "He didn't even ask me first," she whispered. "He just gave me that name." I nodded. "He gives names to the people he trusts." A pause. I waited for her to say something else. Anything. And she did. 7 words. Soft, steady, unshakable. I'd carry that name for a lifetime. My knees buckled before I even realized it. Not because I had a ring, not because I planned a proposal, just because there are moments in life that deserve knees on the floor, not for tradition, but for truth. She set the frame down, knelt in front of me, and we just held each other, right there, in the middle of her hallway, not because we were perfect, but because we were finally free. It was a quiet Sunday morning, cartoons on low volume, cereal on the table, Kelly in my sweatshirt, barefoot, sipping coffee like she belonged there. Because by now, she did. Caleb sat on the floor, coloring. We weren't talking much, just enjoying the rare kind of silence that means peace, not distance. Then, without looking up from his drawing, he said, "So, when are we getting married?" Kelly choked on her coffee. I nearly dropped my mug. "Wait, what?" I asked. He looked up, completely serious. "You're my dad. She's my mommy Kelly. You love each other. Isn't that what married means?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Kelly blinked, then laughed. A real loud belly laugh, the kind that starts in your stomach and ends in your eyes. "Well," she said, glancing at me, raising an eyebrow. "That's a pretty solid argument, soldier." I grinned. "I mean, technically, he's not wrong." Caleb shrugged like it was obvious. "Just let me know, so I can wear my dinosaur bow tie." We burst out laughing, but inside, something clicked. Something real. Something inevitable. Not because we needed a wedding, not because of paperwork or rings, but because a 5-year-old had just spoken the clearest truth in the room. We already were married, in the only ways that matter: trust, time, choosing each other, every day. It was late. Caleb had finished brushing his teeth. Kelly had kissed him goodnight and gone home. Just me and him now. I pulled the blanket over his chest, tucked in his favorite dinosaur beside him. As I turned off the light, his voice called out, "Dad?" I turned back. "Yeah, buddy?" He hesitated, eyes looking at the ceiling. Then he whispered, "Will you still love me if I mess up?" The room went quiet. My breath caught. I walked back, sat beside him on the bed. "Why would you ask that?" He didn't answer, just shrugged, but I knew that shrug. I'd worn it myself as a boy, when I was afraid to speak the things that kept me up at night. I took his hand, small, warm, still trusting, and I said, softly but firmly, "Yes, I will love you if you mess up. If you cry, if you yell, if you forget, if you fall. I'll love you when you're mad at me. I'll love you when you think I don't get it. And even when you stop saying it back, I'll still love you." He looked up at me. "Even if I'm not your real kid?" I smiled. "That's where you're wrong. You're the realest thing that's ever happened to me." He pulled the blanket up higher and whispered, eyes now heavy with sleep, "Okay, then I'll be brave." And just like that, he closed his eyes. And I sat there, watching him, heart full, tears quietly falling, because I knew love isn't just a word, it's a promise, one I'd spend the rest of my life keeping. It was a Tuesday, cloudy, still, quiet. I had just dropped Caleb off at school and was walking back from the mailbox when I saw the car. Black, rental, parked across the street. She stepped out, hair longer, makeup lighter, eyes older. Lauren. I froze, not out of fear, but out of calculation. She stood still for a moment like she didn't expect to actually go through with it. Then she spoke. "Ethan." I didn't answer. She stepped closer. I've been thinking. About Caleb. About everything." Still no answer. She looked down. Bit her lip. Classic move. It used to work on me. Not anymore. I made mistakes. But he's still my son. That did it. I exhaled. Slow. Quiet. Then looked her in the eye. "Now you remember you're a mother?" She blinked. Didn't expect the calm. "He doesn't even mention you. Not because I told him not to, but because he doesn't have a hole to fill anymore." Her face twitched. I took a step closer. "You chose yourself, Lauren." Again and again. She opened her mouth. I raised a hand. "You're not here for him. You're here because your world is quiet and his isn't." Silence. Then almost a whisper. "Can I see him?" I looked at her. Really looked. Then said with no anger, no heat, just finality. "If he asks about you, I'll tell him the truth, that you gave birth to him. But if you're looking for redemption, don't come through his front door. He already has a mom." I thought Caleb was still inside, but as I turned back toward the house, I saw him, standing behind the screen door, silent, still, watching, his little hands clenched on the frame, his eyes wide, serious, not scared, not confused, just processing. I opened the door slowly. "You saw?" He nodded. Didn't ask who she was. Didn't ask why she came. He just asked, "Is she going to take me away?" I knelt down. "No, buddy. She can't take you anywhere. This is your home." He looked down, then back up at me. His voice, quiet, certain. "Good. Because I don't want someone who left." I froze. He stepped forward, wrapped his arms around my neck, whispered into my ear, "I already chose my family." And just like that, I broke. Right there, holding that boy who had every reason to feel abandoned, but instead chose to love with both hands. Not because of blood, not because of logic, but because some hearts just know where they belong. The house was quiet. Caleb had gone to sleep curled against his dinosaur, still murmuring something about superheroes and pancakes. Kelly and I sat on the back porch, bare feet, 2 mugs of tea growing cold. We weren't talking much, just watching the wind play with the leaves. Then, without looking at me, she asked, "If Lauren ever fights for custody, are you ready?" I didn't answer. Not right away. Because it wasn't the legal part that hit me. It wasn't the fear of courts, or lawyers, or papers. It was the word she used. Custody. Ownership. Proof. Rights. I looked down at my hands, felt the calluses of a man who had held pain too long. Then finally I answered, "I've been afraid of this exact moment since the day I chose to stay." She turned to me, gentle. "Afraid of what?" I looked at her, eyes steady now. That one day someone would walk in and say I wasn't enough, that I didn't count, that blood matters more than presence, that love isn't legal. She was silent. Then she placed her hand over mine, firm, unshaking. "Let them try. You're not fighting alone anymore." A beat passed. Then she added, "You never were." And in that moment I realized I didn't fear losing Caleb. I feared losing the right to say he was mine. But now I knew. He'd say it for me. It started with a letter, official, cold, stamped by the county court. Lauren had filed for custody, claimed parental alienation, claimed I had interfered with the maternal bond, claimed Caleb had been coached. I didn't yell, didn't panic. I just sat down, read the words. Kelly read them too, then looked up and said, "She's got no idea who she's up against." We hired a lawyer, prepared paperwork, collected everything we had, school records, doctor visits, photos, letters, the drawing Caleb made, now framed on the mantel. But what we didn't expect was the town. The very next morning, I went to get coffee, and the barista, Elena, slid the cup across and said, "He's your boy, we all know it." At the hardware store, Rick the owner said, "I've seen you carry him through a storm. She don't get to waltz back in now." Even the school principal called me in, just to hand me a statement. Caleb identifies Mr. Walker as his father in all behavioral and emotional documentation. I was stunned. Letters started arriving. Emails, handwritten notes, from neighbors, from veterans who knew my mom, from Kelly's grief group. One note said, "Blood gives life. Love teaches it how to live." By the time the first court date came, our lawyer didn't just bring files. She brought 60 letters. From a town that had watched a broken man rebuild a boy into a whole human being. Courtrooms are strange places. Too quiet, too clean. Like pain isn't allowed to echo off the walls. Lauren sat across from me. Lawyer sharp, eyes colder than I remembered. Caleb wasn't in the room. Thank God. Our lawyer made her case. Kelly sat behind me, steady like a lighthouse. Then Lauren's lawyer stood up. "We'd like to submit testimony that the respondent has no biological relation to the child and has actively obstructed the mother's right to access." It stung, even if it wasn't true, even if the paper trail said otherwise. Then the judge nodded. "Any additional witnesses?" Our lawyer shook her head. Then, a voice from the back of the room. "I'd like to say something." Heads turned. Barbara, Lauren's godmother, Caleb's biological grandmother. She stood up, walked slowly to the front. No makeup, no dramatics. Just a woman who had lived long enough to know truth when she saw it. The judge nodded. She raised her hand, took the oath, and looked straight at Lauren, then straight at the judge, and said, "If this courtroom wants to know who Caleb belongs to, ask the boy. He calls Ethan Dad. Not because he was told to, but because he was loved into it." The room went still. Barbara continued, "Lauren gave birth to Caleb. But Ethan gave him a childhood." Even Lauren looked shaken. Then Barbara looked at me, her eyes softer now. "You could have destroyed my daughter, Ethan. You had every reason to. But instead, you raised her son to be better than both of you. I stand with you." She sat down. No more words. And she didn't need them. Because the room was silent in the loudest way possible. That night, after the hearing, I tucked Caleb in like I always did. But instead of rolling over like usual, he looked up at me with wide, tired eyes and said, "Can I sleep in your bed tonight?" I didn't ask why. Didn't need to. "Of course, buddy." He grabbed his dinosaur, slid his tiny hand into mine, and we walked down the hall like it was the most natural thing in the world. He climbed under the blanket, settled into the space where Kelly usually slept, and turned to face me. I lay down beside him, one arm around his back. We didn't speak for a while, just breathed in the same rhythm. Then, barely a whisper, "If they make me go with her, will you still find me?" My throat tightened. I turned to him, held his face in my hands. "Listen to me, Caleb. There's nowhere in this world you could go that I wouldn't find you. Nothing anyone could say that would make me stop being your dad. Not a judge, not a paper, not even her." He nodded, then rested his head on my chest, just over my heart, and whispered, "Then I'm safe." And with that, he fell asleep, still clutching the stuffed dinosaur, still mine. And I lay there in the dark, no longer afraid of any verdict, because I already had the only one that mattered. We stood in the courtroom again, Kelly behind me, my lawyer beside me, Barbara seated in the back, hands folded, silent. The judge entered. Everyone stood, then sat. He cleared his throat. "Before I issue a ruling, is there any final statement?" Lauren stood, not slowly, not timidly, but also without the sharpness from before. "Your Honor," she said, voice steadier than I expected. "May I speak without my attorney?" The room paused. Even her lawyer blinked. The judge nodded. She stepped forward, faced the bench, then turned and faced me, and said, "I came here thinking I could reclaim something I lost. But the truth is, I didn't lose Caleb. I left him." Murmurs in the courtroom. She held up her hand like she was stopping herself from breaking down. I kept telling myself I had reasons, that I was young, that I was scared, that I had no help. But this man, he had every reason to hate me. And instead he raised my son into someone brave, kind, whole. Her voice cracked. She turned back to the judge. "I withdraw my petition." Gasps. Even the judge looked stunned. She continued, "This isn't a legal matter anymore, it's a matter of love. And that child has already chosen who his father is." Then she looked at me and whispered, "Thank you for doing what I couldn't." She picked up her bag, walked past Barbara, past Kelly, past everything she once tried to reclaim, and without another word, Lauren left. For good. Kelly stepped into the living room as I was folding laundry. Her eyes were red, not broken, just soft. She held out an envelope, yellowed at the edges, taped shut. On the front, in that neat, unmistakable handwriting, "For when the battle is over." I didn't recognize it. Where did you find that? Her voice was low. Barbara brought it to the school. Said your mom gave it to her years ago. Told her only to deliver it when everything was finally safe. I sat down. Hands trembling slightly, I opened it. Inside, two things. A letter and a photograph. I looked at the photo first. It was of me, about 6 years old, holding a toy sword, standing proudly in the front yard. And next to me, Mom, kneeling down, kissing the top of my head, eyes full of pride. On the back she had written, "You were always meant to lead, even when life tried to break you. If you're reading this, it means you did." Then I unfolded the letter. Ethan, if this is in your hands, I know two things. The storm has passed, and you have become the man I always knew you were meant to be. I wasn't the perfect mother, but I loved you with the kind of love that watches from a distance until it's safe to step in. By now, you've probably learned that Caleb was never a burden. He was a doorway, a second chance, for you and for me. And Kelly, if she's by your side, then I know my boy is finally home. You've rebuilt something stronger than what was lost, and now it's yours to protect, to lead, to love. No matter where I am, I'll always be your biggest believer. Always faithful. Mom. When I looked up, Kelly was crying, but smiling. She pulled me into a hug so tight I felt something inside me settle, like her arms were the full stop to a sentence that had gone on too long. And for the first time in years, I smiled without apology, because the war was over, and we had won. It was taco night. Kelly had just dropped some shredded cheese on the floor. I was pouring water into Caleb's cup. The radio played something old and happy. Then Caleb, between bites of taco shell, looked up and said, "I've decided something." We both paused. Kelly raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah? What's that?" He swallowed, licked salsa off his chin like a little warrior, and declared, "Our last name should be the same." I blinked. Kelly froze mid-reach for the napkins. Caleb went on, "You're Mommy Kelly. He's Daddy. So I think we should all be Walkers." Kelly smiled gently. "But sweetie, I haven't changed my name." Caleb shrugged. "Then change it." We burst out laughing, not at him, but at the absolute certainty in his voice. No doubt, no hesitation. Kelly leaned over and cupped his face. "You really want us all to match, huh?" He nodded. "Yeah, then no one gets confused, especially at school." He looked at me next. "You're Walker. I'm Walker. She's family too. So..." He held his hands up like it was the most obvious math problem in the world. "Let's all be Team Walker." Kelly looked at me. I looked at her. And in that moment, a name wasn't just a label, it was a choice, a flag we could all carry. She whispered, "Team Walker, I like that." And I said, "Then it's settled. We're one name, one team, one home." It was Friday afternoon. Caleb came barreling through the door, backpack half-zipped, shoes somehow already off. "I got something," he shouted, waving a crumpled piece of paper like it was a treasure map. Kelly looked up from the kitchen. I set my book down. He handed me the paper proudly. "It's for my Draw Your Family project." I unfolded it slowly. Crayon, stick figures, smudges, imperfect, perfect. There were 3 people in the center, a tall guy with brown hair, a woman with a cape, again, and Caleb, grinning ear to ear, standing between them, holding both their hands. Above their heads, he had written, "My forever team," and underneath, "Mommy Kelly, Daddy, me." But it was the last detail that hit hardest. In tiny letters, at the bottom corner, in shaky kid writing, "Walker family, we don't leave." I didn't say a word. Couldn't. Kelly walked over, read it, and instantly, tears. No sobbing, just silent joy leaking out of her eyes. I took the paper, grabbed a magnet, pressed it onto the fridge, not the side, not hidden under coupons or school schedules, dead center, front and proud, because that wasn't just a drawing, it was our ending, and our beginning. The pain, the betrayal, the courts, the doubt, the nights I thought I wouldn't make it, they all led here, to a boy who chose his own parents, to a woman who stayed, to a man who stopped running, to a promise, scribbled in crayon, "We don't leave." And from that day forward, we didn't.